From the moment the black SUVs screeched to a halt in front of the two-story stucco home, everything changed forever. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, cell phones emerged, and rumors began to swirl in whispers that reached every corner of the block. Inside, 3 generations of the Rodriguez family sat down for dinner, unaware that the normal hum of life was about to explode into a nightmare that would shake their world to its core. The patriarch, Diego Rodriguez, paused mid-bite as the front door rattled. His wife, Elena, pressed a hand to her chest. Their teenage daughter, Marisol, exchanged a frightened glance with her little brother, Carlos. An uneasy silence fell, broken only by the muffled commands echoing through the front yard. Minutes later, agents clad in black tactical gear burst in, shouting orders, their weapons trained on the trembling family. "Hands where we can see them," barked Agent Maxwell, stepping into the foyer with an assault rifle cradled in his arms. The family complied instantly, exchanging terrified looks. Diego raised his hands, glancing down at the cuffs forming around his wrists. His mind raced. What had they done? What could justify this violent intrusion into their home? Behind Agent Maxwell, 2 more agents fanned out, scouring the living room. Elena stood rooted to the spot, her apron still tied around her waist, tears brimming in her eyes. Marisol clutched her brother's hand, her voice barely a whisper. "Mommy, what's happening?" Carlos echoed, voice quivering. No one answered. The agents moved with military precision, isolating each family member, issuing curt commands that left no room for explanation. Moments later, the agents rifled through drawers, overturned picture frames, upended cabinets. The smell of gun oil, mixed with the scent of Elena's homemade tamales, now strewn across the kitchen floor. Diego watched helplessly as memories, framed wedding photos, children's drawings, were scattered like worthless trash. Each photograph torn from its place felt like a personal violation, an assault on everything he held dear. Then came the flash of badges, small, round, glinting in the harsh glare of the overhead lights. "DEA," one agent announced, voice cold and detached. "Drug Enforcement Administration. You are under investigation for narcotics trafficking." Diego's stomach dropped. Drugs. Trafficking. He knew the rumors about his trucking business, late nights on the road, whispered jokes at the local cafe, but he was clean. He breathed deeply, trying to steady himself. Elena's knees buckled. Marisol's eyes widened in disbelief. Carlos began to cry. The agents didn't hesitate. 2 more pairs of handcuffs clicked shut as the family members were separated, herded into opposite rooms like livestock. The sound of heavy doors slamming echoed through the house, sealing their fate, isolating them in a vortex of fear and confusion. Outside, the engine of the SUVs idled, ready to whisk them away. The entire street watched in stunned silence, neighbors clutching their phones, filming every moment. The air felt thick, charged with the weight of injustice as windshield reflections captured the family's last glimpses of freedom before they were driven away, shackled and silent, into the unknown. Back at DEA headquarters, the agents assembled. Evidence. Files were loaded onto computers, photos were printed, phone records were compiled. The lead agent, Karen Whitaker, studied the mountain of data with a furrowed brow. Everything seemed to point to one thing: a well-oiled operation, moving kilos of cocaine across state lines, payments funneled through shell companies, late-night GPS pings, confidential informants, all traced back, at least superficially, to Rodriguez Trucking. But something nagged at her. The pieces fit too neatly. The evidence was airtight. Almost. There was a nagging gap in the timeline, a missing shipment that never materialized. Every detail pointed toward Diego, but her instincts, honed over years, whispered that this might be too good to be true. Meanwhile, Diego sat in a holding cell, the harsh fluorescent lights painting his face in harsh lines. His thoughts churned. How? Had innocent paperwork and routine inspections turned into this nightmare? He replayed conversations with his accountant, late dinners with clients, phone calls that seemed harmless. What had he missed? Was someone setting him up? Elena paced the cold metal bench in the adjacent cell. Tears left glistening tracks on her cheeks. She cradled Carlos, trying to reassure him even as her own world crumbled. Marisol sat a few feet away, her slender shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The siblings clung to each other, bewildered by the violence unleashed upon their family. Hours passed, then days. At the district courthouse, the prosecutor, Michael Green, prepared for arraignment. He laid out the charges: conspiracy, distribution, money laundering, so heavy they threatened to bury Diego beneath them. Cameras clicked as the Rodriguez family was led before the judge. Diego's suit hung loosely on his gaunt frame. Elena's hair, once carefully styled, now lay limp and tangled across her shoulders. The bail was set at a figure so astronomical no hardworking family could hope to afford it. The defense attorney, a young public defender named Carlos Mendez, whispered hurried reassurances to Diego. "We'll fight this," he promised. But in his eyes, she saw the flicker of doubt. This was a David versus Goliath battle, and the Goliath had the badge, the evidence, and the public outcry on its side. Public outrage surged. Headlines blared, "Drug kingpin exposed," "Local hero" or "Local villain." Social media ran rampant with speculation. Some voices pointed to systemic bias, while others demanded swift justice. The Rodriguez name became synonymous with either infamy or injustice, depending on who told the story. Every mention on TV felt like a fresh stab in the heart. Inside the jail, a guard slid an envelope beneath Diego's cell door. His name was scrawled across it in blue ink. With shaking fingers, he opened it to find a single sheet of paper, an address, a time, a promise of exonerating evidence. The handwriting was familiar. His heart pounded as he realized it was Elena's. A note slipped from her prison visitation, hidden beneath her sleeve. She'd risked everything to pass him this lifeline. At the appointed hour, Diego was escorted to a private meeting room within the facility. The warden, imposing in his uniform, watched as a middle-aged man in a threadbare suit entered. He carried a battered briefcase. The man's eyes darted nervously across the room. Diego recognized him instantly. Luis Alvarez, the former accountant. For Rodriguez Trucking, long estranged after a bitter dispute 2 years prior. Luis swallowed hard and began to speak. His voice trembled as he recounted how, in the months before the raid, he'd been coerced into fabricating financial records, shipping manifests, and bogus invoices. He painted a picture of threats, intimidation, and fear. How he'd been cornered into compliance by a shadowy cartel masquerading as a DEA informant. His fingers shook as he revealed the cartel's plot to use Diego as a scapegoat to derail a rival network. Diego's jaw clenched. The pieces clicked into place. The phantom shipment, the curious new informant, the unusually aggressive raid. Every step of the operation had been orchestrated to point directly at him. He gripped the edge of the table. "Why now?" he whispered. Luis's eyes filled with tears. "They needed a fall guy," he said. "Someone with a clean record. Minimal criminal ties. You were perfect." Back in court, Carlos Mendez stormed the prosecutor's table with Luis's sworn affidavit. Gasps erupted in the gallery as he laid out the new evidence. Bank statements showing transfers that led to offshore accounts, tied not to Rodriguez Trucking, but to the cartel's dummy corporation. Hidden GPS logs traced the supposed drug routes to abandoned warehouses where the cartel conducted their real operations. Every piece of the original case now reeked of manipulation. The judge, stern and unyielding, studied the documents. He leaned forward, fingers steepled. He reviewed Luis's testimony, the financial records, the GPS metadata. The courtroom hung on his next words. After what felt like an eternity, he banged his gavel. "This court orders all charges against Diego Rodriguez and his immediate family to be vacated, effective immediately." A wave of relief, shock, and triumph rippled through the Rodriguez supporters. Elena wept openly as handcuffs were removed. Marisol and Carlos rushed to their father's side, enveloping him in a fierce embrace. Even the public defender, eyes moist, shouldered Diego's weight for a moment before stepping back. Reporters clamored, cameras flashed, but for one brief moment the world held its breath as the Rodriguez family reclaimed their freedom. Outside the courthouse,